Previously on Stargate Universe. No, get out. I could make 100 videos on the Stargate shows, talking about the lore, the intricate backstories on the characters, the twists, how many times Apophis comes back from the dead for God's sakes. It's one of science fiction's great series, a group of characters walking into a giant donut traveling to different worlds, saving the day or screwing up the day. 3 movies, a prequel miniseries, an animated series that made no sense, and 3 series currently exist, each one having their pros and cons. Stargate SG-1, the Earthbound series, where they fight off lots of villains that try to enslave planets around the galaxy, from the Goa'uld, Ori, Replicators, and many other bad guys of the week. The second series, Stargate Atlantis, taking place in a new galaxy, dealing with bad guys called the Wraith, who suck the life out of you for food, not to mention some leftovers from SG-1 every now and again. And the third series, Stargate Universe, which basically rips off Star Trek Voyager, has a crew of assholes that get trapped on a ship called Destiny, with a main character who's a piece of garbage that gets people killed and doesn't care, and where characters have no problems having sex in other people's bodies. Anyway, I'm a big fan of the first 2 shows. SG-1 by far has the best characters and world building. Bad on the rehash of villains and overstaying its welcome. Season 9 and 10 were thrown on as a refresh, but I felt like the story was over with Season 8. For Stargate Atlantis, its setting was the better of the 2. However, its problems are mainly towards the main cast and villains. They had a lot of wasted opportunities, so it never got to reach its highest potential. There's characters that completely got screwed over, and there's others that took all of the screen time. It's why fans call Atlantis the McKay Show. Originally, the show started off with Major Shepard, Taylor, Lieutenant Ford, Dr. McKay, and Dr. Weir. The show, of course, got criticism of rehashing elements from SG-1. Shepard acts like O'Neill, Taylor's similar to Teal'c. You want something new, but SGA played it safe. But seeing what happened in Stargate Universe, I don't complain about this anymore. And they did do a few things differently. Dr. McKay, who came from SG-1, he's the asshole character. Dr. Weir, she fills in the position of General Hammond, but was designed to be a main character. She understands Atlantis' language, she's a politician, and we have Lieutenant Ford. He was an original character. The initial setup of the series was solid. You got a new crew, new bad guy, we got a good fleshed out world. Atlantis finally gives us all the big backstory chunks on who made the Stargates, what happened to them. We even get to see their technology, even sometimes get to see themselves. What got screwed up was how the characters progressed through the show. SGA also relied on a lot of secondary characters. SG-1 had a few, the biggest one being Dr. Fraser. She basically became a main character. From that experience, SGA got a handful of side characters, from Zelenka, Caldwell, to Dick Kavanaugh, with the biggest one becoming a main, Carson Beckett. They had all this potential. The villains, I think, were unique enough. What kind of villain took out the species that seeded thousands of planets with Stargates across 2 galaxies? We're talking about thousands of years of technology improvements, all useless. The Wraith got expanded on. We even had a few characters that were allies, but others overstayed their welcome. I think you have to sum up Atlantis as the lost crew. That's what it felt like to me. The writers looked like they were bored. They start focusing on some characters, but then let others rot. The first casualty was Lieutenant Ford. Much like Shepard, he was a young military officer. He's not a rookie. He listened to orders. Ford protects his team. When they're in pinches, you could always rely on him. Sometimes he could be a hothead. He really wants to prove himself. I wanted to see where he would go. That never happens. Through the first season, a lot of focus went on Taylor and Dr. McKay. I get that Taylor is going to need a lot of attention. She's one of our characters. That's a part of the new galaxy we're in. She knows the worlds, the people. We need to know her people as well. And she's also a POV character for the audience. She's going to ask questions on how things work and whatnot. Dr. McKay, we already knew him from 2 SG-1 episodes. He was the most fleshed out at this point, and they had to evolve his character. He was a total prick in those early episodes, not to mention watch him do stupid things like trap himself in a force field or blow up a solar system. You had his journey from being a dick to a better teammate. He was also the comedy relief, so they had a lot to do with McKay. Shepard, They didn't have much with him, but since he's the main actor, he always got screen time. He played like a Captain Kirk character. They even poked fun at that in the show itself. He got a handful of interesting episodes, but that's as far as he goes. Ford just did not get much through the first season. Shepard ordered something, he did it. He was the hero, he got McKay's ass out of problems, but that's all. He never got a real focus episode to know him much. The only character flaw he has is him wanting to prove himself. It got him in trouble several times and got him thrown off a balcony in the season 1 finale. Now, what's going on with Dr. Weir? Her character was in such a poor situation. I knew Tori Higginson from other series. I also liked that the Atlantis expedition was civilian-based. SG-1 was all military controlled. It's a simple change, but it helped the show feel different. There was not much for her to do. This was a problem thanks to the restrictive nature the story put the writers in. Weir is this politician. She wants to be fair much as possible, looks at both sides, but also when a situation goes bad, she goes in and gets it resolved. There's no place for her to really do that. One of the things that the series set up was that humans are basically cattle to the Wraith. They come in, suck up their life energy, then go into hibernation for hundreds or thousands of years till the human population comes back in large numbers. But they also prevent most humans from not reaching a certain tech level, so they can't fight back. Most episodes have primitive people and sides that don't really do much that requires diplomacy. Usually the characters go in to save lives, so Weir doesn't get a chance to actually flex those muscles. She just stays and runs Atlantis, and when they did have some stories where it required a diplomatic story, they usually ended up using Taylor or Shepard. So again, Weir got sidelined. That's probably why they also had her be good with the ancient language. So if she can't be a mediator between people, she can help the team translate and understand stuff. That happened like, 2 or 3 times where Weir joined the team for a mission. How many times did Daniel have to help translate crap? A lot. But for whatever reason, it was just quicker to not do this. So Weir kept getting left more and more on the station. Even her backstory got goofed. She had a fiance on Earth, they only dealt with him once, and they just ended it right in that same episode. Simon didn't know why she left because the Stargate program's a secret, so she just popped away. They never considered having him become a reoccurring character. Like, yep, I found out a few years later, I moved on, goodbye Elizabeth. A third aspect of the character down the drain again. Out of the 3 years she was on, Weir got 3 good episodes where she helped rescue Shepard from being trapped in a time-controlled dome. There was smoke aliens that trapped them in a dream, and her screwed up memory episode where O'Neill got the guest star in it. I almost forgot to mention Weir's time travel paradox episode. That was a good one too. You could argue the mid-first season finale where she was dealing with Kolya, but by the time we got to season 3, Weir wasn't doing anything of importance. She just lingered there. For Ford, right out of the gate, they knew they didn't know what to do with him. So they had him overdose on an enzyme that helped boost a person's body when a wraith fed on you. So they basically turned him into a junkie and half a villain who disappears. We're forced to presume he was killed. I get mad when I listen to these season 1 commentaries where Rainbow Franks is getting happy where his character is going to go for season 2. And I'm like, yeah, that don't happen. Ford slowly got more and more ignored. Basically, when they run into problems writing characters, they just toss them out. They would say they do big plot lines, then end up never really doing anything. Weir would follow the same fate. You can see the writers are trying. I liked a lot of the stuff about the show, but they couldn't even do Atlantis itself right. It's a huge, several-mile-long city that can fly in space. At first, they would explore the city to find out more information, get backstory and logs of the people. That just disappeared. They completely ignored the rest of the city. We would get small tidbits on how it worked very rarely, like that random underground geothermal generator area that got blown up in the same episode. The city as a character was being used poorly. They didn't even consider having a Weir episode exploring the city, and I think I know why. Like I said, the writers weren't really using the characters correctly. They got rid of Ford because of Ronan. He was a much more interesting character. Ronan was from a fairly advanced planet that survived wraith attacks, so now you have Ronan, who is much more like Teal'c, so they retooled Taylor to act like Xan from Farscape. But the writers had fun writing for McKay. There was this one episode where McKay did something stupid while exploring Atlantis. It was tech that basically forced his brain to evolve. It ended up being one of the lowest rated Atlantis episodes. So they must have decided to not do any more exploring city stories, even though it was because people were starting to get tired of the heavy use of McKay. Season 2 was where the characters felt like they were circling a drain. They fell into a pattern. Oh no, we have to hide the city from the Wraith, and run into problems on other planets. Rinse and repeat, with not much when it came to something original. Atlantis also started the whole kill off side characters. They remembered how strong that two-parter was when they killed Dr. Frasier, and they wanted to show stakes on the show, so they would kill off a few small roles, Dr. Grodin and Dr. Heitmeyer, but they crossed the line when they killed off Carson Beckett. The show was feeling meh at this point. They needed to spark some life, but they did it to a character that, one, recently got promoted to main character, two, was someone fun that wasn't Dr. McKay, and three, they didn't give a lot of solo episodes to, so people got really mad at the writers when he died. Then, to top it, Dr. Weir got written out at the end of season 3, which starts the revolving door of commanders. What is this, Power Rangers now? When season 4 came out, SG-1 ended, but all the SG-1 actors were contracted for a possible season 11. They took advantage of that with Amanda Tapping and made her the commander of Atlantis. I don't have a problem with that, but it went against the whole civilian thing. Then, because she's basically Dr. McKay's character, it caused this awkward problem with Sam not helping out. I know you don't want McKay to get screwed, but then it makes Carter look stupid not doing anything. She basically fell into the same trap as Weir. 10-year veteran character, yeah, I'm just gonna pop in when you need me. Now, when season 5 started, her contract ended, and so they got rid of her and replaced her with Mr. Woolsey. Now, he's an old character from SG-1. He's the guy who makes you follow the rules behind your company. But what annoyed me is this is where the commander line finally clicked. Because Woolsey was an ass character who only cared about the cost and protection of Earth. He never fully experienced what these people go through. So they had a character they could do an arc with. I was like, finally, someone who's in command that gets a story. And that's when they end the show. This show cannot catch a break. By the time we got to season 4 and 5, the show didn't know what to do. Taylor did less and less. The actress got pregnant, so that interfered with a storyline they were trying to do. They tried to involve her baby, not to mention the Michael plotline that went to crap. I'll get to him. Shepard also had a side story with the Wraith character. They nicknamed him Todd. His character was there to show us Wraith aren't just generic evil. What annoyed me, Todd had depth, but the Wraith they kept bringing back was Michael. Now, Michael was a cool concept. Quick rundown. Michael used to be a Wraith, but they turned him human to try to figure out a way to eliminate them needing to eat people to survive. They hid it from him. He reverted back to Wraith partially and got his memories back, but he ended up being hated by his people and the humans. They turned him into a mad scientist that kept coming back like Apophis. So he got on your nerves, and he tries to kill Taylor a million times. To put it in O'Neill's words, he became a cliche. He got boring. I got fed up with him. I wanted more Todd episodes. I even wanted more Wraith Queen episodes. We didn't get to really know that side of the Wraith. In SG-1, we never really got a Goa'uld that turned good for real. They all had to be killed off. SGA had a chance with Todd, but he mainly turned into a plot device. Don't get me started on the ZPM nonsense in the series finale. To sum it up, the last 2 seasons were bandage seasons. They were trying to fix or get plot lines started. They brought back Beckett as a clone. That's why Michael got turned into a mad scientist. They were trying to walk that back. Dr. Weir, she popped up in a quick thing at the end of a season 4 episode, which never got resolved till season 5. And to make it worse, Tori Higginson didn't even come back. We got a random person playing Weir at that point. I understand why she didn't come back. You're driving back and forth between the US and Canada for one episode or a scene. It's not worth it. And all of this was done to quickly wrap up storylines with the replicators. This is not a good way to do things. Then we have Keller and McKay. When Beckett was killed, the show needed a new medical officer. They swooped up Jewel State from Firefly, and she became Dr. Keller. I do like her, but then you bring back Beckett. So here we go again, stepping on toes. Keller is the new medic. It would be unacceptable to kick her out of the show, but what do you do with the Beckett clone? Not much, and they ran into the same problem with Keller. She didn't have much to do. So they ended up making her the girlfriend of McKay out of really nowhere. So season 5 ends up being a huge McKay focus. I like McKay, but come on. Shepard, Taylor, Ronan are not getting much material. Even the series finale was a rushed mess. The final big problem was that the Wraith found out where Earth was. They had set that up okay in earlier episodes. There were several big mistakes that led them to finding the location. But in order for Atlantis to follow them, the city needs to be fully powered. For the entire run, Atlantis was running on 1/3 power. So in the last episode, they pull ZPMs out of their ass. All because they forgot plot lines that started in earlier seasons. That would have covered this issue. Remember the list of locations that could contain ZPM power sources? What happened to that? The worst offending Deus Ex's show ever did was pull Wormhole Drive out of its ass. They were stuck with the 2-week travel time between Pegasus and Milky Way. That's why you should set up your finale so that you don't invent stuff that breaks the show's consistency. Wormhole Drive now exists, and I'm going to be asking where that tech went to in all future Stargate series, just like I did with SGU. They even admitted it was stupid in the audio commentary. The finale even had rushed visual effects. They used a different CG model of Atlantis, where all the piers are different than to the model used every other time. It's easy to spot with the 2 piers that are supposed to be connected and the control tower lacking the opening gaps. They even forget about Ford. It even became a freaking joke in the show. They never really confirmed he was killed. There was a moment where Shepard's mind was thinking about stuff and Ford makes a 5-second appearance. All these problems are the reasons why the producers opted to move on from SGA to SGU. They had the option to make 2 more seasons of SGA, not saying it would have helped, but 40 more episodes could have been used to fix a lot of the problems the show ended up with. Season 6 should have focused on Ford and Todd, which would in return make Shepard, Taylor, and Roden get more stories. Season 7 could have worked on fixing Weir and Beckett. I would have liked to have seen Woolsey involved in trying to get Weir back. He was a character that worked really well in SG-1 clip show episodes. It would have been interesting if, not a clip show, but a flashback episode that used Woolsey as a narrator, where we get to see new episodes that were about Weir, stories that we didn't see in the older seasons. That way you bring Higginson back properly, then try to fix the nonsense with the Replicators/Astorians. With the amount of characters that got replaced, killed, ignored, they could have had a second team to work with. I had this idea that if the show had gotten extra seasons, Dr. Weir, Beckett, Ford, and Todd could have formed SGA Team 2. Then you could alternate between 2 teams. It'd make Atlantis stand out from SG-1, and you could have the teams deal with problems separate, or have them merge into bigger storylines. Even have problems on Atlantis while SGA Team 1 went off-world, then catch up with them later. I also really wanted one Wraith to join the team. The character would cause a lot of issues being there, from the distrust to a Wraith's requirement of food. It'd keep all the problems front and center and give Clone Beckett a more determination to figure out how to remove their feeding dependency. They could have toyed with this character much more, such as they do succeed with a cure but not pull a Michael, or they don't, having the Wraith die from not killing anymore or them forced to kill him. I also considered having either a Wraith Queen or Michael be optioned so that you can get Michael's storyline back on track. There's an out with his death since he could have hit the water, and Wraith can withstand a lot of punishment if they feed off enough people. The Wraith Queen option, the Queens were set up to be more important than what they ended up doing, and it felt like a waste of the actress. Not throw darts at a board picking which doctor would die next on the show. This is why people got extra angry at SGU. That series was a mess, but SGA felt like it was being put down without getting a chance to redeem itself. And it wasn't a numbers problem on top of it. The series was holding its viewers. It was only on its 5th season. I didn't want it to go on forever. SG-1 went on a little too long, but it got to wrap up all its main plot lines. SGA never got that chance, so fans of SGA got burned, especially when they promised a movie. I really think they could have recovered the show if they had gotten a little more time. But SGA was worth saving.